What is the most effective psychological trick you use? When I'm in public, and I think somebody is looking at me, I yawn. Since yawning is contagious, they will yawn as well. I just yawned after only just reading this nice trick. Unless they're a psychopath. I guess that's a good way to weed them out too. Ladies and gentlemen, a personal favorite of mine is the speak softly method. Patent pending. If you end up in an argument and the other party is yelling, tone down your own volume slowly. Don't speak too softly too fast or you'll be seen as weak. Don't be too loud for too long or you're back to where you started. Just lower the tone of conversation down to an acceptable level. Maintain a calm and collected demeanor, and in no time at all your yelling match will have turned into a more or less amicable debate where you can resolve the issue. P.S. If you want to grab someone's attention via email, comment, etc., paragraphs are key. No one likes reading long blocks of text. Keep it short to begin and then people will be hooked so you can make the paragraphs a little longer. Remember people's names. Greet them by it when you see them. Even if that's the only time this week you might. People really like it when someone remembers them. It's easy credit. I do this with customer service reps. I write down their name so it's in front of me when I need it. I use their name at the pivotal point in the call. Tony. That's great. Thank you. One last thing. Would it be possible to lower the monthly rate as well? I don't know why, but I find it super patronizing when someone uses my name in the middle of a one-on-one conversation. The way I see it, there are two reasons to artificially insert someone's name into the conversation. They want to sell you on something. So they're using the Psych 101 tactic to make you like them. They are historically bad at remembering names and want to help themselves remember yours because your first impression was good. It's easy to tell the difference. Are they selling you something? Hey, can I ask you a weird question? Curious minds now want to know the question and what makes it weird. Doesn't have to be weird, but the person will pay more attention to it. Silence. It's so powerful. If I want to find out more about what someone is really thinking or feeling instead of nodding along or using some verbal filler, I just don't say or do anything. It's amazing how people respond. So often as people we interrupt each other before things reach a deeper level. Plus, some people find silence uncomfortable and need to fill it. I've found out so much this way. I get what I call verbal vomit when someone asks me a question and doesn't say anything in response after I answer. I can hear the words coming out and mentally I'm like, stop. Just stop talking. Please, for the love of God, bite your lip and shut up, and they just look at me deadpan and I keep blathering. I hate it. It's honestly kind of FG mean sometimes lol. Like, please just give me any acknowledgement that you understand what I'm saying so I don't just leave panicked and confused. I have an anxiety disorder LMAO. More effective if you nod slightly or shift your weight forward a touch and freeze right as you start the silence. You're starting a body language affirmation and then stop halfway through it when they stop talking. Huge psychological pressure on top of the silence that they need to continue. Had a journalist show me and use it on me. So hard to not overshare. Dealing with kids is all about distractions. If a kid is fussy, describe the area of an invisible device that you installed that prevents fussiness. Go into detail about how you installed all the latest features, and specify the edges and corners. Confusion will occupy a kid's attention. Doesn't want to eat, that's a challenge race, focus on the competition. Not the food. I'm bored, ask them if chopping off their toes will help with boredom. Incentives are how you sell the product. Stole this from a friend. Seems to work better with boys. Any minor injury to a limb. Guess we'll have to chop it off and replace it with insert cool limb. Sore arm. Let's get some bear paws, you'll be super strong. Sore feet. Replace that with kangaroo feet, you'll be able to jump crazy high. Sore neck. Imagine if we can replace that a giraffe neck. I taught myself how to visualize things vividly in my head. I used to not be able to picture things in my head. But then I started telling myself that I didn't want to visualize whatever it was. And much like trying to forget an ex-girlfriend after a breakup. Or trying not to have that stupid catchy song in my head. All of a sudden I could picture it. Or hear it. It took some practice. But with time it became second nature. Edit. Spelling. When someone is trying to sell me something, I just keep quiet. They often can't stand the silence, so keep talking about features etc., but then they run out of things to say and start dripping the price. I have two. First, active listening. I work with the public and have to make favorable connections quickly. I've found people will quickly open up to you if you act genuinely interested in what they have to say. Second, and sneakier, figuring out how much of a sociopath the person you're dealing with is. When you apologize, add in something that showcases vulnerability or weakness. i.e., I'm really sorry that I upset you so much. People lower on the scale will focus on the apology. People higher on the scale will focus on a perceived slight. I'm sorry. I don't understand the second one. Knowing how much of a sociopath someone is crucial in manipulation. If they're more empathetic, then focusing conversation around emotion is better for making connection. If they're more sociopathic, then steer the conversation towards stroking their ego and showcasing potential benefits for them by having a connection with you. At work. When I know something is not working due to a mistake that someone else has made, I ask them if I've done something wrong or if I understand the process correctly. I find more people are willing to own up to something and fix it quickly if they are not made to feel defensive with direct accusations. Where do you work? Pleasantville. Where I work, if I take blame, they'll gladly let it rest with me. Important difference between accepting fault and implying that you're willing to admit that you may be at fault. Same. If I screw something up at work, I just own it. I did X. It caused Y. This is what I did to try to fix the issue before calling you. I get along great with the mechanics at work that way. Placebos work even when you know it's fake medicine you're taking. So I just convince myself that water cures pain. Link. You can also use this on others. Basically, if you want to help someone that's complaining about having a headache and you don't have a painkiller, you just whip out a convincing speech about how most headaches are due to dehydration and loss of salt. Make sure to say you read Harvard research about this and just sit back and watch as a glass of water with salt starts to act like medicine. Works 9/10. And it works better if you are exact about it. Like 1 pinch of salt per 100 milliliters. It's all about the theatrics and grabbing attention. They call this the lab coat effect. People expect certain things from medicine. Trust through scientific research. Exact ratios and a foul taste are very much part of this. True story. Read about this in a Harvard journal. When someone tells an offensive joke, either ask them to explain it to you because you don't get it, or ask them to repeat themselves a few times. Having to explain the joke or repeating it several times takes away the humor in it. If they can do it, I can do it. Almost every single job, position, title or accomplishment has been achieved by someone that other people look at and go, how the FK did that moron make it to where he is? And if those morons can do it, I sure as ST can do it as well. I did this with myself when I was learning to drive. If I want someone to agree with me for whatever reason, I'll subtlety nod my head while asking them a yes or no question. It subconsciously primes them to agree. The trick is more potent if you get them to agree 2 or 3 times to really simple and obvious questions before the question you want them to agree to most. I use this trick for upselling at work all of the time. It works dangerously well if I use some nonverbal communication too. The best way to get a question answered is to just guess at the answer. If you are wrong, people will fall all over themselves to correct you. This is called Moore's Law. I prefer using Cole's Law in those scenarios. I love Cole's Law, especially using it at summer BBQs. I literally gave my classmates treats so that they would stop being bullies. It actually worked. Edit. Gave them a treat every time they did something nice. I even did a survey for a class exercise to see what everyone's favorite lolly was. I genuinely liked giving things. But I was just told I was buying friends. In my school you just couldn't win no matter what. Like the old trick. Someone whistles. If you look for who whistled, you were high on yourself. And if you didn't, you were a prude. Ah, that's not nice. But don't let anyone make you feel like you can't be a generous person. But I get what you mean. In high school you just can't win. The alternate version of this is asking people for a favor. Like asking someone to hold a pen for you while you tie your shoe. For some reason people like you more after they do you a favor. You can catch people really off guard by showing them you trust them to help you out. Humans are weird. Want people to trust you and tell you something? Wait for a moment with them and both comfortable and share something that holds value to you. Often people will feel like they now have to tell you something back. When you forget someone's name, ask their full name. This make them feel you wanted to know their last name. Ben Franklin effect. If someone doesn't like you, convince them to do you a favor or lend you something. It'll trick their subconscious into convincing them they like you. Very handy at work. I read this one on Quora once and always wondered if it actually works. Yes, it does. But you have to ask for something small or that makes them look better. Like a pen or the spelling of something. Or go with something that they like. For example, if they are into computers, ask him, her a recommendation about something related to that. If they are into tennis, ask him, her to go and help you buy a racket. It's actually a great way to make friends. Not knowing this was a thing. I did it with a coworker who would always question the way I troubleshooted her computer issues. I asked her for information on the latest Apple tech. She preferred Macs. And then asked her to be a beta tester for new Mac OS when they were released. I got a more stable rollout. She got recognition from me in front of her peers and boss. And we had a much friendlier working environment. She even made me a present. It was one of my greatest work relationship successes. I'm a salesman who is afraid to call. Really, it is like a phobia. In my job you mostly hear a no than a yes and it makes me feel down. So recently I run into this technique when you have to take a no for your goal. Each morning I write 70 circles. Each time I hear no, I color it and this ST just works. Somehow your brain rewards yourself for a no and you don't feel like ST. Also, I never sounded so confident. I'm not afraid to offer anything. I want this no. My results have never been this great so far. I want to use this method in regular life also. Whenever you want someone you're with to hold an object you're holding but without giving them the opportunity to reject it. Start a conversation about something that has to do with them and wait for them to be telling you about it excitedly and then keep staring at them as you sneakily hand over whatever you're holding and they won't interrupt their storytelling to refuse what you're giving them. Voila! Got rid of something you didn't want to hold. This is awesome. I get lonely holding my DK in my hand. I'm going to try this at work. Add a little, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. At the end of each request. It's crazy how people will accept pretty much anything as long as you give them a bit of false liberty. Fake it till you make it can really trick yourself into doing something you didn't want to do. For example, I really don't feel like starting on my report. Let me just pretend that I'm interested in doing it. Look over the data and act like I was getting any information out of them. And then next thing I know I was BS deep into my report. My wife utilizes this technique in bed. We're still waiting on the make it part. You get the BS deep part though, right? Did you get any paper cuts? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.